Debbie.
Jane.
We met, I think it was 2 months ago. We met at the
Is that
corporate
all?
co-op.
It feels like I've known you my whole life.
But I think it was 2 months ago, and we met at the corporate co-op. I ran in late to a panty making party. It was knickers. We made our own panties.
We made knickers.
Yeah. And perfectly positioned. I was next to you as I came in late. We immediately connected.
Absolutely. It
And-
was like we'd known each other for years.
Yeah. I remember seeing you like around the farm village and that sort of thing, and you just have this aura about you. But when I sat down with you, you were completely approachable, completely warm, completely open. And yeah, I just want to know more about how we've come to sit together now, how we've come to collab.
So for me, I'm really big on energy, and that connection is huge. And I had been following you on Instagram for a while. And so when you arrived, I kind of had an idea of who you were, but I certainly never expected to connect at that level. I knew we had our beagles in common because you had often commented on my things. But yeah, I think for me, everything that you stand for in terms of Bravely Jane, in your journey, in your writing, in your authenticity, just completely resonated with me as a person, and with Positano as a brand. So it just felt like a natural connection. In some ways, I feel like you're the younger version of myself. We've got many parallel journeys, and the more I get to know you, the more I just feel like there is just so much more to the layers of connection. So yeah, here we are, and I'm excited to be chatting with you.
I couldn't be more excited, and I completely agree. And today we're in your exquisite boutique.
I know, I love it.
And we were chatting a bit before how it came to be, but tell me more.
So Positano as a brand was my sort of lockdown side hustle. I was working for a company in the events business pre-lockdown, and then during COVID, we went on to consult to the wine industry, and I felt that there was something lacking in terms of a creative outlet. I'd always had a passion for empowering women. It was something that's kind of been very front and center to me for a long time. My mom passed away when I was 27. And there's quite a lot of history there with that journey in terms of her being disempowered, not having choice, being in an unhappy marriage, not having the means or the ability to leave. And so I think I've always fought really, really hard to be independent and to be an example of what I would have wanted my mom to be and to have the courage to be. So in that creative outlet that I was so desperately seeking, I knew that somewhere I wanted that to come into play. And so I had always loved the idea of a little shop, but I didn't really know what that looked like at the time. It was kind of a pipe dream. So I started with a couple of beautiful pieces that I had bought from my travels. I love two of the things I love, shopping and traveling. I mean, hello, could it get any better? And so over the years, my travels, I'd bought beautiful pieces, and I had done some research, and I found that the sewing cafe was literally on my doorstep in Masi Pumalele, which was 3 kilometers from where I lived, which was just fortuitous. And I connected with Athene from the Sewing Cafe, amazing dynamic woman who runs that business. And I started working with her where we then made some patterns, modified certain things. I mean, I'm not a designer at all. I just know what I love. And I know that certain pieces for my body type really work. It accentuates the bits that it needs to and sort of hides the bits that I'd prefer that it does. And I had an eye for that. So working with pattern makers to be able to say, okay, this is what I want to create. I don't have the expertise to do it. you bring your expertise and let's see how we can bring this to life. So I started producing a small range with the Sewing Cafe and selling it at markets and things like that. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, honestly. Like I said, it was a side hustle. I was working from my spare bedroom, in between a full-time job, in between, I think at that point we were homeschooling. I have a son. He was in grade 4 at the time, and trying to navigate that. So it was quite, it was like a hobby. Get to it when I get to it, and if I don't, I don't. And then it became something that I was getting quite a lot of feedback on, and people were like, "Oh, I love this. Can you do it in other colors? Oh, where can I find out more about the brand?" And it just started gaining traction. I'm a firm believer that there is enough to go around for everybody. So every market that I've gone to, if I can help other brands, just helping other people set up, or of course you can use my change room, where people were a bit taken aback by that. And I was like, what do you mean? Because they'd come across people that were very sort of insular and very protective of their IP and of their space and of their customers and of their... And I suppose because this was my side hustle and a passion project, I just approached it with the perspective of, being kind, being inclusive. And I just found that I attracted the right people into my space. It was just amazing that it just grew from strength to strength. A couple of years of doing that, the market, it was quite tough. Driving to Stellenbosch 6 o'clock in the morning, set up for a market, and somebody's put you opposite a thrifting store where somebody can buy a secondhand something for a lot cheaper than what I can make it for, and standing there the whole day and not selling anything. So, I mean, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. It's a lot of hard work. But I got to a point where I was like, you know what, all of this running around, I need to have a shop. Like, that was always there at the back of my mind. And I remember sitting at Cafe Rue having breakfast one morning, and I looked across and I was like, that's my shop. And I do believe that I set the wheels in motion to manifest that, and it has been an absolute game changer. What it did is it forced me to up my game from a production perspective, because suddenly I'm having to produce a range as opposed to just a few beautiful pieces, and regularly producing, new and different things. It means that I'm collaborating with other brands that I want in the store to provide an all-round experience for my customers, because I dabbled with this for a while, where I was, do I suddenly have to produce winter clothes? It's about sticking. I question that sticking to who and what Positano is, and it is essentially a resort wear lifestyle brand, which is that, bright colors, create a life you don't need a holiday from, that type of vibe, where having the confidence, once I had the shop, to say to other brands, love what you do, come and present it in my shop, because I don't do that. And knowing that if I put the customer first, it's not about my brand being front and center. It's about what would that customer want when they walk into Positano.
I think such a common thread through everything you've shared is that there's enough sun for everyone.
Oh, I love that.
There is enough sunshine for everyone.
Definitely.
And you've lived that from day one.
Yes.
That I really can sense that you see your client and the other brands and the other business owners as the same person. You are inclusive as your brand is inclusive. So I think in saying that, I really want to know what inspires you. What inspired you to come up with these beautiful ranges that are inclusive and are really made to stand out?
What comes to mind immediately for me is about creating pieces that people can feel fabulous in. if I could bottle self-confidence, and that's sometimes what I say to my team is we don't sell clothes or swimwear, we sell self-confidence. And I've been there no matter what size I've been is irrelevant, because what the demons that were going on in my head and the conversation and the battles in my head when I looked in the mirror were always not good enough, no matter how skinny I was. So I've been there standing in the change room, regardless of my size, going like, oh, you look awful in that negative self-talk, and that, that putting myself down, and then being forced to try on a piece of clothing or a costume that was never designed to support my body anyway. So it just fed into the narrative of not being good enough because my boobs weren't supported correctly, or my thighs were a little too thick, or my whatever, So for me, I wanted to create pieces that when you put them on, and we've all had that feeling. Well, I hope we have, but we all know, we know that where we kind of look up and we go, wow, oh my God. And your whole posture changes and you go like, wow, like, I look amazing. And to be able to acknowledge that, I actually get goosebumps, to be able to acknowledge that and be like, sure, even though that negative voice is chirping in your ear, you want to clap it and say, pipe down, I look amazing. And through clever engineering of our swimwear, little tips and things that we do, like side boning and double lining and strategic paneling that just supports us in all the right places, that we can literally go from feeling frumpy to looking like va voom. I'm inspired by seeing people come alive, by seeing their face light up. I see when I'm at those markets or people coming into the shop, I see people will almost do a wide berth around me when they see swimwear. And one of my best stories ever is a lady, I was at a market in Joburg, and she walked past and she said, oh, I haven't worn a costume in 20 years. And I said to her, just do me a favor. If you've got a few minutes, come, let's try one on. She came out carrying the costume and she said, you were so right. She said, I felt amazing. She literally hadn't worn a costume in 20 years. And she said it was the first time they were going to their timeshare in Umhlanga, and she was going to swim with her grandchildren. When she came out, we were both hugging and crying. It was such a special moment because I've sat on the side of that pool. I've had that anxiety where people say, we're having a braai, bring your cozy. And I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm getting into a costume in front of all those people. Like, I've lived that. I've experienced that anxiety around that. And to know the joy that she was about to experience, rather than sitting on the sidelines longing and wishing, she might not even have acknowledged that, but somewhere in the core of her being she was going, I wish I was in that water, I really wish. And so that moment of, this is why I do what I do. And even better than that, a year later, where I was back at the same market, and she came back and she said to me, I just want to say thank you. I had the best holiday ever, making memories, swimming with my grandchildren. That is what inspires me, because we all have beauty within us. And I've spent so much of my life focused on the exterior and focused on feeling inferior, feeling not good enough, feeling like thin equals good enough. And those neural pathways were created at a very young age, where I got validation when I lost weight and started looking a certain way. And so literally, like, thin equals good enough. That's been my struggle my entire life. I know that I'm not the only one, and I know that that resonates with so many people, that when I see how they feel and how they light up when they are in something beautiful. I mean, people will be like, oh, I could never wear that color. I mean, this is an exclusive print to Positano. and the amount of people that go like, oh, that's so bright, I could never wear that. But you can actually see like the little crease on the side, like they're like, oh, I'd love to wear that, but oh, I just couldn't. And I'm like, put it on. And they come out and they go, wow. And you can visibly see that they feel amazing, because that just permeates through every cell of your being. That's the inspiration for me, and that is why I do what I do, and that is why I love what I do.
It really speaks to your ethos of, we're not selling clothing, we're selling confidence. We're selling, not even selling, we're inviting people in to this completely new way of living, a new way of relating to ourselves, whether it be in a dress that you're ready to take off to put swimwear on. So I also think of somebody walking into Positano here at the Farm Village, what do you say to her?
So the first thing I would ask is what they want to do while they're wearing their costume. So if they are doing cold water plunges, or or just lying on the beach tanning, or what do you want to do? Because we've got or people will say like, oh, I hate my arms. I mean, how many of us have issues with our arms? I'm learning to love my arms, but I'm also quite happy to cover them. So I'd get a sense as to what are their pain points, what are their sizing is important, like to understand the size bra that they wear, purely because of the way some of our costumes are designed. It's better for a larger bust. Some are designed better for a smaller bust, etc. So I'd try to understand what do they see themselves doing when they're wearing this costume, and get a feel for their sizing, so that I can steer them in the right direction. And then I'd give them a couple of options, and I would always accompany it with a little cover up or a little mesh dress to go over it, so that they know that they don't have to feel completely exposed, that there's options for matching cover ups. It's about bringing out that self-confidence from within. So we don't suddenly want to go for somebody who has, not worn a costume in 20 years to va-va-voom, you know what I mean? So that's really what I would ask them to trust me on that journey, because I speak from experience and I've been there. I mean, if somebody had told me 10 years ago that I would be modeling swimwear online, like my picture and my videos of me at the heaviest that I think, bar being pregnant, I've ever been, thank you menopause, I would have been like, are you mad? Everybody that walks through the door, it's important that they are seen, that they are greeted, that they feel welcome in the space. It's a space where everybody is included, and I think that goes back directly to the authenticity of the brand. And I think that's what resonates with people, because so many people are fighting battles we know nothing about. And it goes back to that ethos about kindness and inclusivity, is sometimes people just want to be seen. They just want to be seen. We've got a saying that's framed at the door, and it says, my favorite age is now. And the amount of people that stop and say, I love that, or they take photos of it. In fact, on our little swing tags, you'll see we put beautiful little sayings, and they change all the time. But one of them is, my favorite age is now. And it's been such an important journey for me to I spent a long time, and trust me, it's a work in progress. It's certainly not something I can tick. I don't think anybody ever ticks it. So just fully embracing that my favorite age is now, because this is what we have. Some people are fighting for their lives to have what we have right now, and we're not appreciating. So there's a few practices that I encourage in order to do that, and in order to be fully present in the now. And one of those is gratitude, and one of those is the writing in my gratitude journal, just appreciating right now, menopausal a lot of women suffer with depression after having kids because they've had to learn to love their body that is no longer what it used to be like, and we fixate on all of that and put ourselves under so much pressure to be what we used to be, whereas we can't fight aging, we can't fight those milestones in our lives. And as women, I think there's so much space to support and love each other for where we are now, and stop with the criticizing and stop with the judging. And for me, I make a concerted effort where if I see somebody looks beautiful in something, I tell them, not because I want anything, just because I know how amazing it feels when somebody acknowledges that. And I feel like we can start a movement. We really can be the change. So often we sit on the outside looking and saying, oh, I wish it was like this, or I wish I had this, I wish. And for me, I've learned, just be it and it will come. Just be that kind person, be that loving person, be the person that compliments, that shows an interest, that listens, that gives advice, and you draw those people into your space. One of the things that we've done with Positano to bring the brand to life in the context of inclusivity is we've created our Positano plunges. So at the moment it's monthly. If you follow us on social media, you'll see we announce it, and we create it as an event on Facebook. But in Simonstown, Long Beach, on a monthly basis, we have a group of ladies that meet and we do a cold water swim. We have such a laugh. It is so much fun. It's free. Anybody can come. We say all shapes, sizes, and ages welcome, because we're wanting to create that space where everybody can come and be seen and have a laugh and feel like they're a part of something. And I'm just seeing how people are responding to it. That, I said earlier, people are fighting a battle that we don't know about, is for somebody to know that they can get up on a Sunday morning and come and enjoy a coffee and have a giggle and do something that's maybe completely out of their comfort zone, and those endorphins, and you're feeling amazing afterwards, and you meet other like-minded women. Like, that can make somebody's whole weekend. There's a time in a woman's life when you get older where I feel like brands have forgotten about you. It's either empty nest syndrome. Suddenly your world is, your kids have gone to varsity. Like, who am I? Who am I without my role as a mother? So we've started this event where you belong, you're seen, you're good enough just the way you are. Not when I lose weight, not when I get my hormones in check, not when my kids leave home. Like, now, every single day you can choose some way to live fabulously. So for those of you that don't know, the payoff line for Positano is live fabulously. So we try and encourage that as kind of the common language amongst our tribe. And so for me, there's a number of things. In short, it's about creating a life you don't need a holiday from. My move to Cape Town, what some people don't know, was sort of a year in the making before I actually made the move. And I needed to get off the treadmill, the corporate treadmill. And I mean, I loved my job, loved my life in Joburg. But I knew that it wasn't sustainable. As a single mom, I wanted to have the freedom and the flexibility to spend more time with my son, to go and watch the school matches, the sports matches, to fetch and carry, and, that type of thing. So it's about creating a life where you're not living 50 weeks of the year in order to have a 2-week holiday. Being in Cape Town has taught me that there's so many different ways to make a living, to create this life for yourself. It's finding the time to walk my dogs where that fills my cup. It's being honest with yourself about the things that give you joy and prioritizing those. If that is a yoga class, if that is boxing, if that is a mosaicing class, whatever it is, like as women, we take on so much, so many roles. Looking after the house, looking after the kids, running businesses. Like, at what point do we stop and acknowledge that we can't fill from an empty cup? At what point do we prioritize that? I mean, it's not about deservability. It's about, it's a necessity, because you can't keep going. It's like your car engine. At some point you got to have the car serviced. So living fabulously is about taking the time to do the things that fill your cup. It's also about authenticity. And it's tough. It's tough. Last year around this time, I ended a 7-year relationship because I realized that I wasn't living authentically. And it's hard. It's hard making those choices, because on some level it's easier not to make those decisions. And it's easy to say we become victims of our circumstances. But I think in order to truly live fabulously, you really have to look at your life and your life choices. And it's taking the time to spend with ourselves. And we all caught up in the busyness of life. And when do we stop and listen? It took work. It took some soul searching. It took some therapy. It took a lot of writing. It took a lot of processing to let go of, some shame and some guilt around some of those choices and some of those decisions, some of those behaviors. I shudder, and I've had to forgive myself for, because we have one life. We really do. We have one life. We owe it to ourselves. So to me, live fabulously means those things. To you, it may be something else. But I think underpinning all of it is we need to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and not just like the person that we are, but truly love the human being that we are. And it's work in progress. I don't get it right every day. But I feel like my light shines differently when I am authentically that person who is the real me. This is who I'm embracing, because that's all I have. And by doing that, I know that so many other people are looking at that and going, I want to do that. I want to be that. So I guess that's my invitation to everybody, to find what live fabulously means to you and start living that.
As we go into our day together and into our day, what do you say to yourself for this day ahead?
Be magical, be amazing. And I guess what I am telling myself constantly is probably a bit of a push, but when I remember, is you are enough. I am enough. Because I spent a long time thinking I wasn't good enough. And so the little 5-year-old Debbie, the 15-year-old gawky teenage Debbie, to the 25-year-old finding validation in all the wrong places Debbie, just needs to know that she's good enough. So that's what I tell myself. You are good enough. You're amazing. You're magical. And go out there and share that light. Share that light with people who need it. Give hugs. Give hugs. I watched something the other day where they said, hug until the other person lets go first. And I've been practicing it, and it's been so amazing how many people hold on for that little extra. And go and do it. See, when you hug, and I'll say, I'm a hugger, like, give me a hug. And you can see some people, and then the wall goes down, and they're like, oh, give me a hug. And I love that. You can just feel it. But hold that hug until the other person says, I've received enough from this beautiful connection. and you'll be amazed at how telling that is. It's beautiful.
Can we have a hug?
Oh, of course we can.
Oh, thank you.
I'm running, go.